Good afternoon. In this video, we're going to be looking at an anonymized version of a sales report that we produced for a customer, and we're going to show you some of the ways in which we used data visualization best practices and some advanced DAX know-how to create an effective solution that helps decision makers find information quickly and easily. So to start off with, we have basically three major metrics that we're looking at. We've got revenue, plan to forecast to actuals, and margin. And I'm going to click through those real quick just so you can see. First off, right off the bat, they have very similar structures, right? So they're laid out in very similar ways, and that was quite intentional. And we did that so that when you learn one page, you essentially learned all three pages, right? The only real difference is the color. You see here we've got this dark red for margin, we've got this green for actual to plan and forecast, and we've got this shade of blue for revenue. The idea being that even if you're across the room looking at the report, you can very quickly understand which sheet that you are on. So another thing we did is we put our most important information up here across the 1/3 from the top line. The idea being that from composition we know that this is the most important part of a report. That's where we want our key information. Across the top we've got some time trending information. We've got revenue with a moving average. You could select 3-month, 6-month, or 12-month. Just click, see which moving average you want. We have the revenue with a gray series, which shows you what it was 1 year before, so you can see if you're doing better or worse than the last year. Then more explicitly, we have for each period, how much were we up or below that same period last year. We've also got some stats on the year-to-date values, the previous year-to-date values, and the values for all of last year to see how you're doing compared to last year. So we've broken our sales down by segment, then by customer, and then by product. And we did this because we generally think that, here in the West, we think of the largest granularity being on the left, and then you read left to right to go from largest to smallest granularity. And we've also got the different salespeople. So if we want to see what an individual salesperson is doing, we could click on that salesperson, and that will affect all the other slicers. Let's see if we can't find somebody who's perhaps a bit more interesting. Okay, and you can see that that changes all of these values up here as well. And over here on products, we see that in addition to the revenue, we have the revenue from the equivalent period last year. That's to help to see you how you're doing compared to last year, right? And like most good Power BI visuals, you could click on any of these and it will cross-filter to the other charts. So you can see what the customer contribution is to, for instance, segments. So here, Best Foods, this anonymous customer, it's not actually Best Foods, contributes quite a bit to the university segment, okay? And likewise, you could click on university to see the distribution of all the university customers. Okay. One nice thing we did is sometimes you end up with a lot of acronyms and things that are a little difficult to understand. So we've added this help bar so you can hover over it and it'll give you some definitions. So it'll tell you what current year to date is, what the previous year to date means, and that is true for charts as well. So if you hover over these charts, if you're wondering, hey, what is EMPY, it will tell you. So we can move on to our plan versus forecast versus actuals page. Here we've used the bullet chart extensively to help you very quickly see how close you are to your targets, right? So we've got bullet charts all over the place here. By the way, if you were curious, this is a bullet chart. So in this bullet chart, we've got the actual value as the sort of the dark center bar. We've got as the pipe, the sort of vertical pipe, that's the plan. And as the lighter bar, we've got the forecast. So what the plan is it sort of changes over time. Since these actual to plan is the most important information, that's why we've made the plan the dark bar, and the actual to forecast comparison is less important. That's why it's the lighter green bar. So it's not as visually apparent, but it's still there if you want to see it. So the real main comparison you're going to do is actuals to plan. That's very easy to see in these. We could see here for Delco, they're under. We could see for the courtyards on Stark, they're over. That's very easy. But if we want to see a comparison against forecast, we can also pretty quickly look and say, oh, okay, this is under forecast, this is under forecast, and this is over forecast as well. Okay. Again, we've got values for the current year, current quarter, and current period. The variance expressed as a percentage, the variance expressed as an actual dollar value, and sort of an over-under comparison to see, hey, are we generally over or under our plan? So it looks like we're sort of continually dipping above and over, and we're just a little bit more over than we are under. Okay. Again, we could click on any one of these segments to drill down to the other charts and see how they interact. Okay. If we just want to click on an individual salesperson, we could do that too. Okay. Finally, we come to margin. Again, it's laid out in the exact same way with a different color. It's pretty similar, so I don't want to spend a lot of time on it. But again, our most important stuff is here at the 1/3 from the top line. We've got some time trends across the top, again, keeping with that structure. Here we have an interesting thing where we've got the margin over time. It basically looks like the same chart, and you might be thinking to yourself, well, how are these two things different? This one is always going from 0 to 100%, right? And this one has sort of an unfixed y-axis. What that'll do is, as you're slicing between things, this will give you a better sense of what the actual margin is, and this will give you a better sense of whether it's moving up or down, which is why this one has a trend line. So if we click on, say, RON, we can see that RON, not only is RON consistently very high, which you could tell from this chart, but from this chart it's a bit more apparent that that margin is actually traveling upward. And so if we come over to, say, like here, here's an example where it's similar. This chart tells you that it's consistently around 50%, but it doesn't quite give you a real good hint of where it's going. And this one, it's more apparent that it's giving this downward trend, right? Again, that cross-filtering still works. And of course, if you want to look at an individual year, you can do that too, and say, all right, we don't want to look at period 1, we want to look at all periods. That works just as you'd expect. Here, when we're comparing margin to actual sales dollars, you might think we would use a bullet chart as we did on the other page. We ended up using this radial dial chart because it was just more space efficient. It still gives you the same idea. Here's sort of the total sales, and here's the margin, right? So it tells you how good is our margin, very easy to read, but it does so with using less space. Okay, and finally, one nice thing that we did is, since we've got these 3 metrics that have the 3 different colors, blue, green, and red, we come over here to a customer overview, where we start with a table that looks, pretty normal, where we've got all of our customers and some KPIs for each one of them. But then we add these strip charts up here, and each one of these numbers here is represented as a dot in these strip charts. So all the margin percent of sales, each one of these numbers is a dot up here. Each one of these forecast percentages is a dot up here. And what that lets you do is it lets you see the distribution very quickly. Because usually when you're making decisions, you're looking for clustering and outliers, usually outliers. And so quickly, as margin percent of sales, it would be kind of hard to look through this and find sort of, what's interesting, where should I make a decision? Up here, it's really obvious, right? Your decisions are going to be based around here, right? These outliers. Why is the margin so high on this? Or why is the margin so low on this? Or why is the margin 0 on this? And you could, go talk to your sales reps to get a story about that. And if you click on any of these dots, like let's go, or we're in 2016, let's look at period 6. See if there's something interesting there. We say, all right, variance to forecast. Why are we so much over here? Johnson Brothers. Okay, we're just going to click on that, and it's going to drill down this chart to give us all the KPIs for Johnson Brothers, right? Here we have a customer demand sheet, which it's kind of interesting, but in the hopes of keeping this video short, I'm not going to speak a lot about it. All I'll say here is this is sort of what we have to ship. So here's the bars of what we still have to ship. They change from this darker red to this sort of beige color as we move from the past to the future. So here's stuff that we were supposed to get out but still have to. Here's stuff that we're not supposed to get out yet, but we will in the future, right? I could talk more about it, but I think you kind of get the idea. And also, here we've got, our revenue page. We've also got these additional pages for sales revenue and gross margin, and these are just these are optimized for Cortana. So if you pull these up in Cortana, it's designed to use the amount of space that you would have there, because you don't get a full page when you call this up in Cortana. So this is designed to be like if you just click on the start button and say, hey, go show me my revenue, Cortana. It can pull this up, and it'll be better laid out to use that smaller surface area. Same with gross margin. Okay, well, there's a lot of stuff in here. I could go over more, but again, I think you just want a general idea, and I think I've given that to you. So we've, used some fancy DAX, which I didn't talk about too much, but we've used some good visualization techniques, which I think I did hit on a couple times, to sort of make a really solid report for decision makers, so they could find information they need quickly, and they can, slice and dice to their heart's content. Okay, well, I hope that was helpful, and I'll see you next video.